All right, here we are, ready to get started. We're going to move through this pretty quickly. We're going to try to take advantage of all that information that you gleaned going through the Google course. So we want to give you the more in-depth version of building a campaign. Typically, when you start a new campaign on Google, it does require a Google, like a Gmail account or Google account in general, and it'll bring you to this screen.
So this is a brand new account that we just created that has never had a Google ad campaign built in it before, so likely what you'll be seeing, and this is where it dropped us.
Yeah, and it pushes you through this thing that they call Smart Search.
Which may be a good place to start for some folks.
Depending on the amount of time you have to put into this and whatever, you can go through this kind of tailored funnel. They really focus on your goals and try to quickly get you into a very simplified campaign. What we're going to do is route you through a campaign creation process that gives you more nuanced control, and 9 times out of 10 is going to give you better results.
Right, so this smart campaign approach does a lot of this stuff for you, a lot of automation, and it really just has very simple things. But even if you do that, you're going to want to go in and tweak some of the settings. So let's say that we are experienced with Google Ads.
We've done the coursework. We're experienced. We're ready. All right. So here's, where they're trying to get you to reflect, your kind of goal for the campaign. So sales is going to be your e-commerce focus. This is, not, if you're a brick and mortar local business, sales might be your goal, but they're not web sales. So think about the goal really on the website. If you are a local business, it might be more about traffic. It might be more about getting people into your location. So sales may not be the appropriate one. For our roofing company, we're going to do leads, though, because we want to generate leads for those commercial roofs.
All right, so we're selecting that, and then it's taking us down to now the different products that Google offers.
Yeah, and this is, in the last couple years, Google's kind of rebranded from AdWords to just Google Ads, because they now have ad placements on YouTube, and they have a whole Google shopping thing. There's a lot you can do within Google, but we're going to focus on search. Because this can get pretty unruly otherwise. I will footnote that while all of these ad mediums can be powerful and effective, you almost always want them in their own campaigns. You don't want to muddle search and display and video because they have different metrics for success. So we're going to focus on search.
One other thing is that, I can definitely see that video is going to be about YouTube ads. There are other products that Google have that are not listed here. I'm thinking of the local and local services and some other products that you'll have to go back to kind of Google's advertising page to get to those. But here we already know that we want to do a search campaign, so we'll click on that and come down to the goals.
Yeah, and so the lead form for our company here is going to be on the website. So we want to get people to the website to complete that lead form.
Great.
All right. Now, conversion tracking it's an important part of this, but it probably is a little more technical than we're going to cover today. It's kind of, usually you would create a code and you would give that to your website administrator. They're not difficult to place on the page, but you need a little bit of technical skill. The code is what's going to tell Google, did that form get completed or not? Did that sale get completed or not? Yeah. We talked a lot about setting those campaign goals. You're going to need tracking to make those goals happen, but that would be a whole different course.
It's going to be a little bit different for everyone depending on how they built their website. Yeah. All right, so we'll power right through that and come over to the general settings section.
Absolutely. So this is not an area to breeze through. We want to take our time here, make sure we're set up for success. Again, I think of that concentric circle model. I want to figure out, where's a great place to start for this campaign. So let's call this campaign Denver Commercial Roofing. So that indicates to me this company serves Denver, but they also serve Fort Collins, Colorado Springs. They actually serve some folks in Kansas. for this, I want to target on the best market, and we're going to make that Denver and commercial so we know at a glance what is this campaign about.
Great.
Next, you've got networks. So you've got search network and display network.
Yeah, these are pretty opaque. I've read these descriptions of what's in these things, and they're pretty vague. It's like our partners. whatever that means.
And this is an area where I think you can be a little bit shrewd with your spend. I would always start a campaign that's only focused on search. So search, as we've spent this whole curriculum talking about, is about intent. Getting somebody right when they've put something in the search bar, which is the product or service they're looking for. Google's display property uses context to show visual ads. So that would be like, I'm reading an article on green roofs and how they're growing in popularity, I might see this ad within that. So it's contextually relevant, but it lacks that intent. It doesn't say I, as a user, am searching
So even
for
though
this type of.
Google clearly wants you to do this, by default they've had that box checked. It's pretty much never a great idea to include both display and search in the same campaign.
Yeah, I would always start with search. If you're seeing some success, absolutely test display, but set it up as its own campaign so you're not conflating your results. You can see how your search is performing, and you can see how display performs separately.
Okay, what about this search partner thing? That was pretty vague on what that was.
Yeah, search partners isn't really obvious. I mean, they give you a little bit more information if you click this, but honestly, it is a network of sites that Google has partnered with that are providing answers within searches. So it's not contextual like a display ad, but let's say I search for a product on eBay. I see all the eBay listings, but if I dig far enough into those pages, I might actually see some ads that take me off of eBay. Those could be powered by Google.
It's still a very different sort of experience or context of what the user's doing.
Yeah, and I mean, some of their partners are very well-respected brands. It's the New York Times, it's eBay. I mean, these aren't necessarily places where you wouldn't want your business to show, but again, depending on your budget, you may want to start with Google search only and not include those partners.
All right, so I'm going to exclude those Google search partners. If we get to the point where we're not getting enough volume and not getting enough impression share, we can always come back and add them later.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we've got more settings here. This looks like some pretty practical stuff.
And we want to make sure anytime they give us an option for more settings, dig in, right? This is a way to get these campaigns nice and tight and make sure you're not spending poorly. So you've got start and end dates. Let's say you only want to test this for a month, or you're running a specific holiday campaign. You can tell Google when to start showing these ads and when to stop. For the most part, we're trying to build and learn and optimize over time with this Eco Roof campaign. So we're not going to set a start and end date. We want to start today and we want to let it run. We can always choose to pause it or end it ourselves manually at any time. We don't need to set an automated end date.
Okay, these campaign URL options.
It gets pretty complex if your web administrator wants you to pass certain information as part of the query string. You can record that in your own server logs.
Probably not something we're going to do from day one.
Pretty technical for most folks, and you can go back and add these URL settings later. So I'd say let's skip it right now.
Okay. So I remember from our certification, they talk about these dynamic ads a little bit. What do I do for settings here?
So I would rather us go through the process of writing some of our own ads, and then once we test those ads, depending on how they work, we might let Google try to run a competing dynamic ad against that. Maybe they can come up with better language than we can. But I think we can start by writing our own ads.
All right. Easy enough. Let's skip that section for now, and we'll come back to it when we're optimizing.
So the location thing, we spoke about a little bit as we were getting started. We want to keep this a pretty narrow target. And I would suggest that people play with these locations, even if they do serve the whole country or the whole world, because you probably don't have enough budget to support all of those customers. So if there is any rationale, if you have any historic data saying your customers come from a specific geography, I would start with a tighter geo area. So the options that Google gives us when we type in Denver, they give us a couple different things. We can do the city proper. We can do this, what they call a DMA. DMA is usually pretty good because the location technology is not perfect. So we want the whole metro area, right? The designated metro area there, not just people in Denver. Because if I live just a little bit outside, I might be getting missed in these search parameters. And the way Google's targeting people via search, if you're on the desktop, it's via your IP address. And sometimes where your computer is parked could physically be 20 miles from where your IP address originates.
Okay.
And then the same on mobile. I might be searching a thing while I'm at work on my mobile device, but it's for my home. And if I put myself just slightly outside of that search area, I won't see the ad. So I try to get specific with the geo, but then try to give myself better coverage within that area.
So I maybe differ a little bit on that one, just because I did look up the Nielsen DMA region, and it looked like it was a TV region. So like what regions are getting the TV ads, and there was some stuff in Wyoming in there.
Whoa.
So it seemed a little funky. So I guess depending on how tight you want to be, if I'm okay with just the traffic I'm getting from Denver, maybe I start there and expand out to the DMA
That makes sense.
later.
And the Nielsen DMA thing it's a very old system.
Yeah.
So in places like New York City, it's like a little bit tighter because of the population or broadcast spectrum or whatever. In the Midwest and Western states, maybe it does go a little further.
Okay. So I think some of these showed interest stuff is a little bit of what you were talking about. People who come into that area sometimes.
Yeah, the showed interest thing is great for travel and stuff like that. Like if I live in Denver but I want to research vacations in Tulum, Mexico, if I'm that travel company, I don't want to just show my ads in Tulum. I want to show the ads to all the people that want to go. So it's people that are indicating in their search query the geography.
Okay, good to know. Probably not applicable for a lot of businesses, but definitely some folks will need to dig into that.
Absolutely. Now, languages is a thing that Google's been trying to do more and more with. They realize that ads written in a native language do get a much higher click-through rate. So, we, again, might be looking at Denver, but it could be a Hispanic population. Do we want to support Spanish language ads? It's a question you kind of have to ask again, how well do you know your customers? If you are going to add different languages, you do need to make sure that you are writing ads in that native language.
Well, I was going to add Spanish, but I'm not going to be good enough to write a Spanish ad, so I think I'll just stick with it.
For now, let's stick with English.
All right, now audiences. My experience in the display world, I know a bit about the audiences, and we all know how much Google sort of knows about us, about our search history. And
It's a little scary.
it's
little
it's
big brother.
scary. But as a result of that, they are able to make pretty good inferences about what people's marital statuses are. And so they have a team of data scientists out there trying to figure out everyone's demographics, and you as a marketer can benefit from their
Totally.
privacy.
On our commercial roofing example, this may or may not be helpful. Now, if we were really targeting like that residential solar campaign, homeownership status is a huge one, right? Of course we want to know you're a homeowner if you're going to be investing in solar panels for your house. But if we're, for this first campaign focused on the commercial roofing, I wouldn't start there.
Yep.
You could do some age demographics and other things. You assume if you're a business owner, probably a little later in your career, you don't want 18-year-olds, are probably not the people that are spending on a $120,000 commercial roof.
Right.
So tailoring those search preferences can make a big difference.
Yeah, it's a fairly new, I think. I don't think this was something we did a lot 4 years ago, and I don't think we ever really suffered from not including that targeting.
Totally. I think more than the demographic information, people are self-selecting based on the language they use.
Yeah.
In their search query. If I'm looking for a commercial roofing contractor, I want to talk to the person who typed in that query, whether Google thinks they're a homeowner or not, or a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old. Like the query itself indicates the right amount of intent. So don't get too hung up on those demographics.
I sense a little bit they're trying to compete with Facebook there, and Facebook's great at demographics, and so they're trying to have a product there as well.
Absolutely.